Between 2004 and 2009, the Yellowstone caldera experienced a remarkable topographic uplift. The ground rose 20 centimeters due to a massive injection of new magma underground, like a balloon that keeps getting bigger until it bursts. If that happened, if the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted, at first everything would occur in a single vent. A small fracture in the area where the crust, swollen by the pressure of the magma, was weakest, like someone popping a balloon with a needle. But as the magma reached the surface, it would tear it apart, blowing up the entire caldera, causing an initial detonation so brutal that it would deafen every living being in the park. A column of ash would shoot out faster than sound, reaching the edge of space in a matter of minutes. Then it would expand sideways, plunging everything beneath it into total darkness. It would quickly collapse, annihilating every living being within 100 kilometers of the eruption point. In less than 24 hours, ash would fall over much of North America. It would bring down power lines, cause electronic circuits to short circuit, collapse transportation, destroy crops, and contaminate water. Normal life would come to a complete halt forever all over the planet, because the sulfur dioxide released into the stratosphere would mix with water vapor, forming a layer of microscopic aerosols that would envelop the entire Earth. This global veil would reflect sunlight, causing a sharp cooling of the climate. The temperature could drop by up to 4 degrees Ice Age temperatures. The polar ice caps would expand. The cold and snow would advance. Weather patterns would be completely altered, and crops across almost the entire planet would fail. Global food production would collapse immediately. Wars over food would begin. Civilization as we know it today would disappear. And only small pockets of organized rebel groups would remain, surrounded by disease, death, and cannibalism. Hello and welcome to Si de Ciencia. When? Because it's not a question of if, but when. And to answer, we need to understand the concept of the Volcanic Explosivity Index. It's a scale that goes from 0 to 8 and measures the magnitude of volcanic eruptions. It takes into account the total volume of material ejected, the height it reaches, and its duration. To put it in perspective, the most famous eruption in recent human history, that of Mount Vesuvius, which destroyed Pompeii and turned its inhabitants into ash ghosts. It was only a 5 out of 8. What the heck is an 8 then? Well, an 8 is a supervolcano, a volcano that, at some point in its history, had an eruption that reached an explosivity index of 8. There is no 9 on the scale because it's not possible on this planet to accumulate that much energy before it breaks through the crust. The last supervolcano was the one at Lake Taupo in New Zealand 27,000 years ago, when humans were already all over Europe and Asia and were about to cross into America. So yes, they are rare, but they do happen every few thousand years. If the eruption of Lake Taupo's volcano happened today, it would have the same catastrophic effect as Yellowstone's. Paleolithic humanity was able to withstand this natural apocalypse because they had nothing to lose. On one hand, there was no civilization with massive production chains that could collapse. And on the other hand, the planet had already been in an ice age for many thousands of years, so we were quite prepared for the effects of global cooling. What humanity was not prepared for was the eruption of the Toba supervolcano, the most powerful volcanic eruption in the last several million years and, therefore, in all of human history. It happened about 74,000 years ago in the north of the island of Sumatra in what is now Lake Toba. Trying to grasp the magnitude of this monster is ambitious, but it might help you to know that during every second of the eruption, energy equivalent to 70,000 Hiroshima bombs was released, every single second. The eruption lasted 14 days. The sky thousands of kilometers away darkened, and the sound of the explosions could be heard by our ancestors across much of the planet. It is estimated that temperatures may have dropped by as much as 8 degrees on average, causing the collapse of many land ecosystems, both due to the cold and the massive droughts resulting from years of reduced evaporation. I like to say that this is the only time humanity witnessed a true apocalypse. Literally, and it could very well have been the end of our species. I'm talking about the controversial Toba catastrophe theory, which claims that this cataclysmic event could have caused a genetic bottleneck in our species that almost wiped us out. It comes from the genetic study of human populations, which reveals something very disturbing. About 65,000 years ago, the total number of humans on the planet was only between 1,000 and 10,000 people. All of our history, your entire existence, and that of all your loved ones depended on the survival of a group of people that could have been small enough to fit into just 2 A380 airplanes. This theory is not fully accepted because although the bottleneck is known with reasonable certainty to have happened, science is not entirely sure if it can be attributed to the Toba supervolcano. With this perspective, we can return to the big question: will Yellowstone be the Toba of the 21st century? Well, during the Christmas holidays of 2013, a study became popular that found the volume of magma beneath Yellowstone is significantly greater than previously thought. And fresh out of the oven, in January of this very year, 2025, another fascinating article came out that shed a lot of light on the matter. Well, it managed to create a sort of three-dimensional scan of the giant that lies beneath the most famous national park in the United States of America. It presents this three-dimensional map where the structures you see are the areas with magma, the magma chambers, and the colors show their composition. The yellow is basalt, which, to put it simply, is the magma that comes directly from the interior of the earth. The mantle, which is very hot and not very viscous, flows easily. It's responsible for providing energy to the whole system. The orange and red zones, as their color suggests, are the dangerous ones. It's there where the magma, when interacting with the existing rock in the area, creates rhyolites, a type of magma much more viscous, which, like a champagne bottle cork, blocks the release of energy. It doesn't let the magma flow, so instead of being released gradually, it happens suddenly, with all the energy accumulated over decades, centuries, months, millennia, or even millions of years, escaping in an instant. That's why Yellowstone is so dangerous. This study found something else very important, that these magma chambers are not completely liquid. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They mostly contain solid rock, with only about 10% liquid magma, which is not enough to trigger an eruption. The key to the matter lies in how quickly these chambers can fill up. On average, Yellowstone erupts every 725,000 years, and the last one was 630,000 years ago, so we still have about 100,000 years left. But we have to remember that volcanoes don't work like math. They're not entirely predictable and their eruptions don't follow clear patterns. In fact, during the last super eruption of Yellowstone, the magma chambers filled up very quickly, in a matter of decades, not centuries. So, to sum up, it's extremely unlikely that the Yellowstone cataclysm will happen during your lifetime. But if you're young, we still can't rule out at all that you might live through it, especially after the scare we had in 2004 with the sudden magma injections. But the fact that Yellowstone isn't such a worrying threat doesn't mean there aren't other, more dangerous volcanoes we should be concerned about. The American sleeping giant is the most famous supervolcano thanks to a somewhat dramatic documentary aired by the BBC. In 2005, which, along with Hollywood, diverted the world's media attention from the planet's true sleeping titan, the very same one that once may have come close to wiping out our species forever. That's right. Beneath the peaceful waters of Lake Toba, its magma chamber, larger than Yellowstone's, is filling up again. Little by little but steadily, the ground is rising and strong earthquakes are occurring in the area. Just like with Yellowstone, it's difficult to predict when and how it will erupt again. But if it does, knowing what it was capable of in the past, in a time when we didn't depend so much on global climate stability, we'd better be prepared. Because even assuming that we would go back to the Stone Age, it might not be enough to survive. Before I finish, I wanted to remind you that if you like these videos, you have the option to support them by becoming a member of the channel. Lately, I've been dedicating all my time to shorts. It's the way I found to make the project sustainable. But honestly, creatively speaking, I prefer this over shorts if only these videos were profitable. Each of these videos requires several weeks of research, scripting, and editing. I thought I could do it alongside shorts, but I can't. That's why, if I see there's enough support, I'll be able to dedicate my time to this format again. I want to do it, but I need your help. Also, from now on, all channel members will be able to watch all my new videos 2 days earlier. Thank you all for always being there all these years, supporting my work. Now, thank you very much for watching the video, and goodbye.